Libido is a Latin word meaning desire or longing connected with sexual passion. Sigmund Freud's use of the word was made popular from his work, Three Essays on the Theory of Sexuality. Freud saw the libido as a purely sexual impulse, which was part of a bundle of impulses, including the I or self-identity impulse and the death impulse. These impulses are described as streams that, if dammed or blocked, will flow into other things. So someone who blocks their sexual impulses will only cause the sexual energy to flow into other things, rather than completely stopping it. Jung challenged the notion of the libido being a purely sexual drive based on his experience with schizophrenic patients. Both Freud and Jung see that with many of these patients, their interest in reality disappears completely, and they will stop making any psychological adaptations to reality. Freud posed the question whether this could be due to a blocked flow of sexual interest into the world or a blocked general interest. To Jung, the answer is clear. Reality is not to be understood as a sexual function. Jung identifies the libido as more of a general will to life and vitality, rather than specifically a will to sex. Life does not make the artificial distinctions that we make. Life strives to become stronger and more abundant. It is the strengthening of the individual and the species that the libido strives for. Sex is only one of the means to this end. In early life, before puberty, the libido is focused on hunger and feeding. We start out in life very small and weak, and it serves the will to life that we become bigger and stronger. Once we achieve some gains, the libido turns towards sexual interests. The individual has gained enough vitality, and now that vitality must overflow and bud off in order to strengthen the species as a whole. Jung uses the metaphor of a caterpillar. The caterpillar is only focused on eating so that it can have enough energy to turn into a butterfly. Once it has made this transformation, its interests shift into sexual reproduction. Our libido works the same way, but our transformation is not quite so clear. Now you may think to yourself, hunger and sex? That's not a very diverse set of interests. Isn't there more to life than that? Certainly, I have more purpose beyond those things. I will say in a moment why this line of thought is true, but first I will tell you why it's untrue. We must remember that we are animals. As far as nature and good old Father Darwin are concerned, living long enough to reproduce and assuring your genes continue to exist on this earth is the only purpose we have. That is the driving force for everything. So every hobby, interest, philosophy, and political machination we have is completely superfluous. Jung phrases it in a more curt and condescending way. It can be a surprise only to those to whom the history of evolution is unknown to find how few things there really are in human life, which cannot be reduced in the last analysis to the instinct of procreation. Now don't let this make you think that Jung is descending into "we are all just a bunch of cells, nothing actually matters" ideology. It is simply the reality of our situation that our drives are based on the strengthening and proliferation of the individual and the species. Where do we get all these other drives from then? Why do we have these supposedly superfluous desires? It comes from our libido being blocked from sexuality and causing that libido energy to pour into other things. So the diversity of interests in us modern humans have come from a resistance to sexuality. Jung believed that cultures with high amounts of sexual symbolism in art and literature are cultures that show high resistance to sexuality, since they are transferring sexual energy onto non-sexual objects. Perhaps the first things to break off from the sexual libido for mankind would be art and fighting. These are two of mankind's oldest hobbies, and have shown up all throughout history, and even far into prehistory. Both of these things can be found today in the animal kingdom as mating rituals. Male animals with antlers lock horns to win a female every mating season. Many species of birds will do dances, show their colorful feathers, or make plastic art in order to win the affection of a female. These displays can be seen in many other animals besides just deer and birds, such as humans. What makes these activities special for us is that a resistance to the sexual impulse has blocked our sexual libido and caused it to flow into these tangential interests. Now these activities that were once means to attract a mate have become interests in themselves. This is the story of all human interests that don't involve survival and reproduction. In summary, The libido is our instinctual drive to increase our own strength and the strength of the species. When this drive is blocked from one of its primary goals, like sex, it will divert its energy into another activity.